Week 9 of the 2024 college football season is officially in the books. We are here talking all things that happened in the SEC yesterday. Another wild, wacky day of SEC football. I am Chris Phillips. He is Cole Thompson. No Dave Shoemate today, but Cole and I are going to hold it down. And, of course, Dave will be back with us. I think he's taking care of some daddy duties on this Sunday morning. Either way, though, again, we are chopping it up. So much happened, so much to get into. We're rocking and rolling as we always do here on Sunday Funday here on this Sunday morning, guys. Again, want to say shout out to our partners, Prize Picks, the proud sponsors of the SEC Unfiltered Tour, which has taken us all across the SEC this season. Make sure you go to prizepicks.com, use promo code SECU at sign up to get that $50 bonus instantly when you play your first $5 or more lineup. You don't even have to win. As long as you play, you're going to get that $50 deposit when you use promo code SECU at sign up. And again, guys, as always, make sure you like, subscribe, turn on notifications, check us out via podcast, social media, wherever you get your content. You can find us at SEC Unfiltered. Again, I am Chris Phillips. He is Cole Thompson. This is Sunday Funday Week 9 edition. Again, a lots to get into. We've got a brand new by themselves first place team in the SEC. We've got SEC teams getting their first conference wins at the end of October. Some teams riding the ship. Some teams feels like the ship might be sinking. Either way, we're here breaking it down. Cole Thompson helping me do so. Cole, what's going on, man? Appreciate you taking the time here on this Sunday morning.
You're welcome, Texas A&M. You're more than welcome. You at this point do not want me picking you. I don't want to hear anybody in the comment section saying he's doubting us. Because the second that I believe in you, the second the magic is over. Congratulations on a massive win. Big time matchups throughout week 9, heading into the month of November. A lot to discuss, a lot on the line, but it also raises the stakes in college football, which again, who the hell am I kidding? It's awesome for the sport, especially when we have a 12-team playoff and there are still games that will be playoff eliminators.
Yeah, Cole, for those that didn't keep up with it, something had to give because every time that Dave, I think, had picked against LSU, they had won. Every time you had picked against A&M, they had won. So we knew something had to give. It is the Aggies and Marcel Reed that find a way at Kyle Field to get the job done. But, Cole, I want to start with a game that I was at, Vanderbilt, Texas, in Nashville. I promise we will get into LSU, Texas A&M. I know that was the headliner and obviously a classic down there in College Station. But, again, because this was the Prize Picks SEC Unfiltered Tour game of the weekend, let's go to Nashville. Cole, Texas escaping their first ever SEC road win. Yes, in case you weren't keeping up with it, this was the first true road contest for the Longhorns. They go into Nashville, Cole, get the win, 27-24. Cole, I want to start by saying this, and I mentioned this on social media, but I want to echo it here yet again. And also I want to say thank you to the fine folks of Nashville. I'm drinking my coffee out of this beautiful Vanderbilt Commodores cup here. While Vanderbilt fans, Cole, are much smaller in number, we can all agree with that. Those that are in number are as passionate as any I've come across in the SEC. So I want to give a shout out to the guys over in Lot 2, the Door Report, my guy Trevor, my guy Will Byram, treated us great. They were so happy that we were in town. It was awesome to be there. And we were treated, Cole, the SEC Unfiltered Tour. You know, it kind of worked out perfectly because there's a lot of Texas folks, Cole, as you know, that had Vanderbilt found a way to pull the upset, we'd have been having some uncomfortable conversations probably this morning or maybe even on Monday with some of the Texas folks that we hang out with, the Texas Sports Unfiltered show. We go on daily. I don't know how happy they would have been to talk to us or especially me and see my face. But we did get a really close, thrilling game, Cole, a game I thought that was interesting. I felt like Texas, there were multiple times in that game I was like, okay, this is the moment. They're going to pull away. They're going to cover the spread. They're going to win this thing in blowout fashion. And give Vanderbilt a lot of credit. They just kept hanging around. Diego Pavia is a gamer. I mean, when you watch them, you can see that, like, they don't have the personnel that a team like a Texas does. They didn't have the personnel that a team like Alabama does, but they're scrappy as all hell. They find ways to stay in the game, and they've got a gamer at the quarterback position in Diego Pavia, which, by the way, got to hang out with the Pavias in pregame. We exchanged information. My goodness, what a fantastic group of people, and they know how to party. The Pavias know how to party, if anything. Either way, though, Vanderbilt should be ranked in the top 25. I don't give a damn what anybody has to say. that is a top 25 team, and shame on the AP for if and when, because I'm expecting they're going to drop them out. But that to me is a top 25 football team. But again, Cole, Texas goes into Nashville. Listen, we say it all the time in the SEC. There's no such thing as a bad road win in the SEC. I was asked a lot, Cole, and I'll pass it over to you, my thoughts on Quinn Ewers, because it's getting to a point where he's really highly criticized. I thought he was good. I didn't think he was great. A couple of those tip balls, you know, if those balls fall harmlessly to the ground, we're not even talking about it. But the 2 tip balls turning into interceptions, you know, I know there's frustration with he loves the check down. Even in the early in the game, Cole, I was like, I feel like they're treating this guy like a freshman. Like it's just check down, check down, check down, check down. But he did hit some big shots over the middle, I thought, in the second half. Played solid football. They've got questions on the offensive line. Obviously, he was under duress, it felt like, the entire game. But defensively, they were dominant. Really, it felt like the only reason Vandy, you know, one of the biggest reasons stayed in the game is because they had short fields, and, you know, Tim Beck and Diego Pavia were able to cook from that point. But anyways, Texas 3-point win on the road in the SEC. Your thoughts on this game in Nashville?
Quinn is fine. I think that, again, it's one of those things where you are always going to put him under the microscope because he's in year 3. He's a quarterback that you expected to be the reason why you were in the college football playoff hunt. You were going to be down in Atlanta, winning an SEC title, winning a national championship. And it's because of who's sitting in the wings and what we have seen in glimpses in Arch Manning. And naturally, that just happens when you're a highly touted prospect, when you're a player that comes from basically football royalty. They want to see you get out there. And so they're looking for any reason. I do think that Quinn is still not 100%. And I think that you can tell with some of his throws. There were a couple of passes that were a little overshot or a bit underthrown. I think that oblique injury is not helping him. I think it's actually being a big problem, but that's what a bye week is for. That's what getting right is for. That's what getting healthy is for. And again, it's a tale of 2 halves. If he doesn't have that batted ball at the line of scrimmage that leads to an interception, it's 3 touchdown passes against 1 turnover, and it's over 200 passing yards, and it looks like a really good stat line with great completions to DeAndre Moore, great completions to Matthew Golden. I don't think Quinn entirely trusts himself, and that's okay at this point. And here's the reason why. Because, Chris, they have a second punch, and it's the defense. The defense is going to bail them out of trouble from countless times and in multiple instances where they feel like, oh, Vanderbilt's coming back in. No, they're not. Diego Pavia, best of luck to you. We hope you have everything in your future, but we're going to take this ball and we're going to give it back to our offense. They eliminated some of the deep shots down the field. They were able to kind of make Diego Pavia one-dimensional for most of the game. They only averaged 3.7 yards per play, 114 rushing yards on the ground. Like, that's not Vanderbilt football. Vanderbilt's averaging 185, 210, 220. So the fact that you had to force Diego Pavia to win through the air, and he had some success. Let's go ahead and give him credit. It shows where Texas is as a unit. The thing that worries me with Texas now, and it's the only thing, it's not Quinn. It's not even the offensive line. It's not playing close against a Vanderbilt squad on the road. It's the inability to establish the same run game that you saw early on in the season with Quintavious Wisner, with Jarrett Gibson, with Jaden Blue. Because the thing that really stood out, especially in Red River, was when Quinn was not playing up to his standard. But when you could definitely tell number 3 was not number 1 on the field. They said, all right, sit this one out, Q. We got this. 5.8 yards per play. 4 rushing touchdowns. They were able to take instances and say, we're going to trust what we have on our ground game, and we're going to use that to our advantage against a very, very, very good Oklahoma defense. I won't call it elite, but it is a very solid Oklahoma defense. Most people, you score 23 points against Oklahoma. I mean, Oklahoma holds you at 23 points. You don't feel that bad, especially with the Texas-led offense, and that was it for 3 quarters of action. But now they don't have that rushing attack. They averaged 3.1 yards per play. Nobody had, I think, over 40 rushing yards on the after. Quintavious Wisner had 79 rushing yards in the afternoon, but Jaden Blue had 47. It felt like they also were kind of pulling away from the rushing attack when you maybe want to slow down the tempo. Maybe that's a testament to what you see from a defense like Vanderbilt, but also you are going to be going up against better defensive fronts moving forward. Arkansas, Texas A&M. You still have to play Kentucky's front 7 that has really good future NFL Sunday players. So I just feel like, again, I'm not worried about this. Texas is still Texas. There's a very good shot that they can go 10-1, marching on into College Station. That probably will set up an elimination game for the SEC championship. I don't know if it will set up an elimination game for the college football playoff, but definitely for a trip to Atlanta if Georgia continues to play at the level that it's at. But, like, Texas is still Texas. I just am at that point where now I'm kind of nitpicking And it feels like every single week, because of the way that I thought Texas was going to be, especially after that win against Oklahoma, that now I'm going to find a reason to say, this is where they're at fault. This is where they're at fault. They're not a complete roster. But it's still Texas. If you tell me that they find a way to win every single game by double digits moving out, including against Texas A&M, I won't be shocked. And it may be because of you just need to get Quinn Ewers healthy, get him back to his pure confidence, and you need to be able to kind of take that breather, figure out what needs to work, what isn't working, and get back to the basics. When you do that, you'll win, I think, most of your games by a touchdown lead. You'll figure things out, and you'll be right back in action.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, Cole, the microscope that Quinn Ewers is under, and I mean, this doesn't mean a whole lot, but I just found it interesting that, when I was out and about in Nashville this weekend, spent some time, obviously, down on Broadway in the city, both Friday and last night, and it was, a lot of Texas fans obviously made the trip, and it was great interacting with Longhorn Nation and talking with them before the game. And even during the game, you could sense the frustration with Quinn Ewers, and that, I had multiple people, Cole, tell me, yeah, I feel good about the team, but we're playing the wrong quarterback. And it's just, I think, like, there's a lot of Texas fans that, again, what does it mean? Fans will be fans, but they're so arch hungry. Like, they're just, we always say, Cole, the backup quarterback is the most popular guy on campus.
Sure.
He's definitely the most popular guy when his last name is Manning, too. So, we'll give credit to Quinn. I mean, yesterday he completed 17 straight passes. He was 19 to 21, I believe, in that.
He looked great. He looked great outside that interception on the first drive for the entire first half. He was fantastic. That is prime Quinn Ewers.
Yeah, he was great in the first half. I again, that's the moment when, excuse me, I thought that Texas was probably going to pull away in that game, and I felt like, it might get away from Vandy. Again, give credit to Clark Lee and his team for fighting, scratching, and clawing. And I just look at it this way, Cole, to your point. In the year of our Lord 2024, when madness has struck every week, I'm going to give you credit going on the road and finding a way to win. I don't care if it's in front of, 30,000 people. I don't care if it's in front of 130,000 people. I'm going to give you credit in the conference this year for going on the road. Top 25 SEC road win. So you got to give Texas credit there. To your point, got to get the run going. I think the bye week comes in a great time for them, too.
It does, 100%.
Yeah. I think it comes in a great time to lick the wounds, kind of recollect, reassess. This team, I think, can still win a national championship. There's some things you got to shore up.
You know what I'm just really tired of hearing, though, from Texas fans and really from fans in general in the SEC? And this is not a shot at you. Please know that I still have picked you to go all the way to the college football playoff semifinals. Like, that's been my stance on Texas all year. But can we stop taking shots at Vanderbilt because if it was a close call? Like, you realize that this is not your mom and pop's Vanderbilt. This is not your grandfather's Vanderbilt. This isn't even your great-grandfather's Vanderbilt squad anymore. This is like back in the day when the Commodore was a real prime position in the Navy. Like that's the level of Commodores that we're seeing. And they're delivering their best punch every single day. You brought up the AP poll is going to knock them down out of the top 25. They are. And this is why I hate the AP poll and why I disagree with the AP poll. And we basically are the Hatfields and the McCoys waiting for one of us to make a mistake. So we'll shoot at the other person. But like, tell me right now, 25 teams that you would rather play than Vanderbilt on any given Saturday. And if you can't do that, that's a top 25 team. They're pesky. They're a cockroach. They certainly have the ability to get back up when they're down and out of the count, and they make things interesting. Look at the way they traveled on the road to play against a Missouri squad that found a way to get a win in double overtime. Look at how yesterday it came down to a miracle and a wing and a prayer onside kick after scoring a touchdown with less than 2 minutes remaining. Like, that's Vanderbilt. And it's okay to say that Vanderbilt is not going to go to the college football playoff, and they're not going to be a team that finds their way into the dozen dance, or they're probably not going to make it down to Atlanta. But they do have the ability to be bowl eligible. They do have the ability. They're guaranteed to not finish in last place. 100%. They're not going to finish dead last in the SEC for the first time in God knows how long. And they also have the ability, I think, to still finish with a top 25 record at the end of the year. Like, it won't shock me if, again, they run the table and they beat up on South Carolina and they beat up on Tennessee if Tennessee has a bad showcase offensively. Because of this is, again, a Vanderbilt squad that has the ability to alter games and make you play their brand of football. So a win's a win. It always is going to be that way. I'm never going to say it's a bad win because every single time that you step onto a football field in a Saturday in the SEC, regardless of where you are, it's a win. But this is a really good win, in my opinion, for Texas because, once again, Vanderbilt is not a bad program. They're not the doormat of dismay that we used to make fun of in college football. They truly are one of those teams that if you give them time to prepare, they will be able to beat you at your own game, and you have to play up to their pace.
Yeah, and Cole, in closing, again, I give a lot of credit to the Vandy fans that welcomed us and showed up. And Nashville was a great time. Thoroughly enjoyed it. It's not Tiger Stadium. It's not Neyland. But I see the potential in Vandy and what Clark Lee is trying to build. And he's going to have to continue to build it. But I think, not to sound corny or to steal a line from Field of Dreams, but if he builds it, that they will come. I really believe there's a lot of potential at Vanderbilt to, again, maybe not be a power, but that's not what they're asking for. I talked to Vandy fans, Cole, before the game. They're like, hey, just get us to 6-6 yearly. Mix in the occasional 7-5. Like, we know what we are. They want to be 6-6, 7-5. They want to be competitive. I think they can do that, and they're getting closer this year. And lastly, Cole, there might be some SEC programs out there that feel like they're kind of above running the offense that Vandy runs.
It works.
It's a very option-heavy, like some might call it, quote-unquote, gimmicky. But, Cole, there's a lot of middle-of-the-pack SEC teams that should be throwing the bag at Tim Beck. And this is, by the way, I've learned Texas has their own Tim Beck. So I'm not talking about the Texas version of Tim Beck that Longhorn fans despise. I'm talking the New Mexico State Vanderbilt version of Tim Beck that slices and dices and just keeps defenses off balance. As good as Texas's defense played, there are just many times in that game, Cole, where I'm like, he's taking lesser personnel. He's confusing Texas because of the scheme and because he's got the right quarterback. So just saying, there's a lot of middle of the pack, Cole, teams in the SEC that offenses they're boring. They could take a page out of Andy's book with that, I think.
Tim Beck's getting a pay raise this offseason. I don't know who it is, but he's getting a pay raise this offseason.
Yeah, either at Vandy or he's getting a head coaching job or something, or maybe a bigger OC. Either way, deserves every penny. Cole, let's go to the game in College Station.
Damn.
Texas A&M, 38-23. The Aggies beat up on LSU. They outscore, Cole, the LSU Tigers 31-6 in the second half to run away with a big win. The all-black jerseys were crispy. Kyle Field was rocking. And Cole, Marcel Reed is the unsung hero coming in relief of Connor Wegman. Cole, he only completed 2 passes.
Yeah.
But
they were good passes.
They were good passes. 9 carries, 62 yards, 3 rushing touchdowns. I mean, College Station was unhinged last night. We can start, I don't know, we can go whatever direction you want to go because there's so much to break down here. Okay, the Airbnb Wi-Fi strikes again. I apologize. There we go. Anyways, so much to break down here, Cole. I'll let you dive into it. Aggies are at top the SEC, and Marcel Reed, he's got to be the guy moving forward, right?
You don't get a win against a top 10 team at home as a second stringer, and the offense completely alters within 30 minutes and say, we're going to go back to 15. Now, here's the beauty of it. I have said for a while now, this is exactly what Texas A&M want to see. They want to have a reason and an excuse to put Marcel Reed back in because if they already know what to expect from him. And so it's a blessing and a curse at the same time because it does feel like there are going to be drives and plays and opportunities to where you feel like Connor Wigman's arm gives you a better chance to capitalize on deep shots. But then you also feel like when the passing attack isn't working, you can trust the ground game. And it's not just preparing for Amari Daniels and Le'Veon Moss. It's also preparing for Marcel Reed, a true, legit athletic specimen that is a freak show in the open field and is not afraid to lower his shoulder and kick your ass into oblivion. So that's kind of where Texas A&M is. You got to like that a lot. I think you also got to give a lot of credit to a guy in Mike Elko to have the balls to say, hey, I get it. Connor Wigman, good dude. Connor Wigman got a win against a top 10 Missouri squad. Connor Wigman looked really good when he was healthy. I don't really care. I want to win this football game. We're going back to the kid that was 3-0 and played out of his freaking mind on the road and got us to where we were. So a lot of credit belongs there. A lot of credit belongs to the offensive play calling of Colin Klein. He feels more comfortable whenever you watch as a guy like Marcel Reed is running the offense. And there's a reason for that. Go back and look at his time in Manhattan, Kansas, and the quarterbacks he was working with. Avery Johnson was going to be the dude for him if he would have stayed as the Wildcats OC. And look at what he produces on a regular basis. That's Marcel Reed. The way that he wants to run his style and his brand, it opens up the offense more because of the way that he plays the game, because of the way that he is able to trust his legs, the way that he is able to have the option moving. But I think it's also a major testament to where Texas A&M's offensive line played. I have given a lot of flack to A&M's offensive line because of how bad it was over the last few weeks. I mean, over the last few years with mostly Steve Adazio at the helm. But they were playing down last night, because Chase Bisontis is out. And they were still able to average over 4.5 yards per play. They found the end zone 5 different times on the ground. They were able to put themselves in great situations to where they owned the time of possession. A&M's offensive line gave A&M's run game a chance. It gave both Connor Wigman and Marcel Reed, mostly Marcel Reed, on that beautiful pass that we saw to Noah Thomas downfield. I mean, one-on-one, 6'5", difference maker, 50-50 ball that is 90-10. I'm bigger, badder, and more of a badass than you. Come down with the type of mentality from number 3. You get that. It's a testament to where this offensive line play. And then the defense. I mean, the best punch that you can always have, and a quarterback's best friend that is usually the most underlying trait, is a great defense that gives him more opportunities to strike. That was A&M last night. They came into the game, LSU only allowing 2 sacks in conference play. They now doubled that when you look at where they were in the sacks play. Because if you get Nick Scorton with a sack, I think you get Shamar Stewart with a sack. But the pressure rate, the way that they were able to manipulate the defensive line to put pressure on Garrett Nussmeier, to throw into double coverage, to make errant passes, to have to kind of step up in the pocket and avoid the sack behind the line of scrimmage, because of this is just how they play. And it's all cohesive. And then you get a bunch of transfers and newcomers that are in this building that are finally looking like they have been here for years. BJ Mays, a UAB transfer, coming away with 2 picks and talking like, oh, you ain't going to throw it my way. The confidence, the swagger, the mentality, that's what you want to see from a secondary member. Des Ricks comes up really big. That's a 5-star cornerback that's going to be here for at least another year as you continue to establish your identity. And you have really good safety play over the top that kind of takes away. There were a few explosive plays, Kyron Lacey, Aaron Anderson, but overall, a solid game plan on all 3 cylinders. They also have good on special teams, an area where LSU wasn't. A&M is further along ahead of schedule than what I actually imagined that they were going to be at this point. And it's a major testament to Mike Elko, and it's a major testament to the offseason workouts, and it's a major, major milestone to say that this is a team that has found its identity. They like the way they play a brand of football, and they're not slowing down anytime soon. I know that I am going to be one of the hardest to probably overall impress. I know. A&M is a top 10 team. They're number 10 for me this week because of I respect head-to-heads, and so I got to put Notre Dame in the list. But Texas A&M is a top 10 team. If they win next week in South Carolina, the entire stench and the aura of the Jimbo Fisher era, where waking up and winning the big game, yet losing a match that you probably should walk away with a double-digit victory, that's over. And now it's time to legit talk about Texas A&M as a national championship contender. I'm ready to throw them in the college football playoff hunt. I'm not ready to throw them in the national championship hunt just yet.
To your point, Cole, if they win that game, jumping ahead to next week in Columbia, a game they typically would lose in years past, I think that will be the telltale sign that it will be the telltale sign this team is like really, truly for real when it comes to big time postseason expectations. I think so, because to your point, that's typically where A&M stubs are shown. But this game, Cole, yeah, I mean, I think you've mentioned him a lot before. You got to give a lot of credit to Tommy Moffitt, man. Texas A&M looks, I mean, they whipped LSU's ass physically. They pushed them around. I mean, you hold LSU to 24 yards rushing, and I know they've struggled obviously throughout the year, but you mentioned it, Cole. You rushed for 242 yards against LSU. A Blake Baker defense that had been pretty darn good up to this point. Had been getting
pretty
better.
Freaking elite, especially against the run.
And had been getting better week by week by week, too. And it really felt like you just kind of put them in their place in that second half. I agree with you. You got to go with Marcel Reed. I don't care what Connor Wigman is showing you in practice or the hype surrounding him. Like, Marcel Reed is a dog when he gets in the game. I mean, I know obviously the passing game is going to be the thing we have to keep an eye on, but I just, when a guy comes in like that, to your point, Cole, he's making plays, he uplifts your team and leads them to a top 10 win at home. I think you got to ride that guy. I mean, I just, Connor Wigman gave you the one quality start where he was electric and on point against Mizzou, but I don't know how you go off of Marcel Reed after what you saw last night.
Let me ask you out of curiosity, just real fast. When you saw that Noah Thomas deep shot and he goes 2 for 2 and he finishes with 70 plus
beautiful ball,
yards,
beautiful ball.
You heard Kirk Herbstreit on the broadcast talk about how he played at Montgomery Ball High School, the academy, with his sons, and that this was a kid that was an athlete, but he also is a passer, and he will make you pay through the air. If he starts to gain that confidence in the passing attack, and by the way, I've seen it. I've seen it up close in person. Last year when Jalen Henderson went down in the Texas Bowl and I was still on the beat, I got to watch Marcel Reed throw for 378 yards and look phenomenal on several deep shots with a very depleted wide receiver core because so many players were entering the transfer portal at that time. But when you look at how his arm can progress and several throws like that, if they become a constant factor against Auburn, against New Mexico State, against Texas, against South Carolina, that's where you, I think, have to start wondering. It's not can Texas A&M find a way to get a win. It's how does Texas A&M find a way to get a loss? Because of when you have the ability to run the football and when you have the ability to attack the passing game the way that Marcel Reed did on those 2 throws, that is nightmare fuel for defense coordinators. And for defensive coordinators just in general, life moving forward is just going to be such a prism of concern. Because here's the other thing, Chris, that we aren't bringing up enough. You have to game plan for 2 quarterbacks because you don't know if potentially something happens to where they go back to Connor Wigman. And what if they do go back to Connor Wigman? You can't look like a team like Eli Drinkwitz saying, well, we prepared for the wrong guy. You can't do that. And there is a scenario where, again, you feel good enough with both of these guys to where if you need someone to come in, it's basically going to the bullpen. 7th inning, get 9 outs, close this game out. That's kind of how it feels right now. And the crazy part is it's working. It is working at times. And it can, I think, be sustainable.
Cole looking way too far ahead, and we couldn't help but talk about it, obviously, last night, being in Nashville. I was hanging out with some Texas buddies that I'll be probably staying with in a few weeks in Austin. We couldn't help, Cole, but let our minds run wild and think about the fact that, man, the Lone Star Showdown is going to have some high stakes on it if things continue progressing the way that they are. Not that it needed any more juice than it already is going to have, but like the odds that game, Cole, at least for one side, like a spot in Atlanta is on the line, the odds are very high that like that game will be pivotal for at least one side, if not both sides.
Real fast, because we still got to get a couple more games to talk about, but there's just a few thoughts I want to have. Number one, for all the A&M faithful, the Aggies everywhere who are pissed that they say that I'm doubting you, don't you kind of want it at this point? Like, I'm 0-5.
Hey, I doubted them too. I picked LSU also. So.
I always pick the other team. And it's like, hey, they find – and by the way, in 3 of those matchups, they have just completely dominated the opponent. And I thought 4 of those games were going to be either close calls or complete they were blowouts. They were complete blowouts in favor of the Aggies. So it's like, for me, don't you –
Cole, to your point, we're at the point in the season where, like, you start believing in hexes and curses. And, I mean – the moment you pick A&M and they lose, they'll never forgive you.
Like you don't want me next week saying, "Oh, Texas A&M is going to win," because you know that means South Carolina's going to do it. Like that's what happens. So you're pulling for me. But the other part that's really, really going to be fun, I have to now imagine a world where Kyle Field, that atmosphere, which by the way was second to none last night. I had multiple friends that were there. They were texting me at 3:45 in the morning, still out drinking. They were so excited about what is Kyle Field when this type of atmosphere. December 20th rolls around and there is a college football playoff game inside that building. You can start having that thought. I'm not saying put the wagons before the horse, but the way that Texas A&M looked last night, you can start having that thought. And I'm not going to lie to you, Chris, that gives me goosebumps because I have seen what Kyle Field looks like in an atmosphere when they're an unranked team and they take down the number 1 opponent in college football. And they rush the field. I have been inside the environments where a top 5 LSU squad that has a shot at being a dark horse for the college football playoff gets humbled in front of not even a full capacity of 107,000 screaming Ags. That place will be howlingly loud. And that gives me goosebumps. That in my state, there is a legit scenario where we could have 2 teams hosting playoff games in the month of December. And I may try and get a ticket to go to both, or at least credential to go to both. That to me, it just warms my heart. And as somebody that grew up on the Lone Star Showdown, me personally, you have no idea how exciting it is to know that there is a shot where this is going to be an SEC winner-take-all for shot Atlanta game in Kyle Field, in a game where the last time that these two played, so much was on the line.
Cole, in closing this game, you know, at halftime, I was probably ready to say that Garrett Nussmeier was the best quarterback in the SEC right now. Who would you say holds that honor? Because, again, we saw the best of Nussmeier. We saw the worst. I mean, we know that's in him, right? He's very up and down. He's a roller coaster ride at times. Who would you say is the best quarterback in the conference right now? I don't feel like that's a very easy answer.
It's not. That's the problem. But like, okay.
I would have gone Nussmeier. If you'd have asked me, like, started that game early in that game, I would have gone Nuss. But
could you still go Nuss? Because honestly, it's
I mean, you could. I mean, even with his up and downs, who doesn't have up and downs this year? I mean,
can I go Diego Pavia just as a cop out and save myself?
I love that. Sure, why not?
Okay, can we real fast? Because we really haven't spent any time talking about LSU. We've just been glossing over at Texas A&M. Yeah. We are an SEC show, so we got to talk about both sides. LSU still has a shot to where they can make the college football playoff. In 2 weeks, it is a playoff elimination game between them and Alabama. The loser of that game is not going any further. Yeah. LSU still has an outside shot of making it to the SEC championship game at 10-2 because they only have one conference loss. So everything is still on the table for them. But if you go back and you watch that second half, give a ton of credit to the secondary adjustments by Mike Elko, who for my money is the second best defensive coach in college football behind Kirby Smart. But there were no adjustments offensively. And the fact that there were so many inconsistent drives being stalled by careless penalties, which has been a huge problem all year for the Tigers, especially with false starts. The inability to find a consistent basis with route concepts. You know, you were watching several passes be overthrown, but also several passes that probably should have been caught where it felt like wide receivers weren't coming down with the ball. Poor communication, poor execution on the offensive line. Like, as good as LSU is when they want to be good, they can deliver a performance that's an all-time stinker too, and it really hurts you. And I think that's what we saw last night, is that A&M found a way to fight back and win. And I'm not taking any discredit away from Texas A&M. They got a hard-fought win, and more importantly, they made the adjustments at halftime to secure the win. They did all that. But when you don't have a team that's willing to make the necessary adjustments and they keep doing it, and you heard Brian Kelly after week 1, we keep doing this again and smashing the table and breaking everything up. and everyone's like, oh, Brian Kelly, judge him in year 3, where we're judging that you have an attitude issue and probably a little bit of anger abuse. I wonder what it's like inside that locker room right now. They said after that game, we have to find ways to make sure that we stay in it. It kind of felt like in the third quarter, they clocked out. It felt like that they're just kind of going through the motions at that point. And Texas A&M didn't. And if they do that against Alabama, they will lose that game. If they did that in the second half against South Carolina, they would have lost that game. There are so many moments where LSU, and I believe that LSU still can go to the playoff. I do. But there were so many moments for LSU where it felt like that they just didn't want to close it out. And because of that, that's why Texas A&M was able to capitalize. Hell of a win by the Aggies. But I am starting to have some questions about LSU, and especially their intensity when it comes to a 10-point lead in the second half.
Yeah, chaotic, really good way to describe that LSU team. High ceiling, but the floor seems to change on a week-in, week-out basis. Cole, let's go to the game in Tuscaloosa. You mentioned Alabama. They dispose of the Missouri Tigers 34-0. Brady Cook gave it a go. It did not matter. Alabama, start to finish, we were kind of waiting on, and I think you made the point, though, Cole, it's like, great win by Bama, but like with Brady Cook's situation, I don't know how many conclusions or what were really taken away from Bama's win. I thought obviously they just physically dominated Mizzou, 4 rushing touchdowns on the day. A couple of those runs by Jam Miller and Justice Haynes, you could see the physicality, the mentality. We're going to be the hammer, not the nail. We're going to deliver the blow, and you're going to take it all day long. Great win by Bama, Cole. One you needed to have it. You needed a win like this, and Cole, get Missouri out of the top 25. Blast them into oblivion. They're 6-2. I understand, but probably the worst 6-2 team in the country, man. I don't know if that's overreacting, but
it's overreacting in a sense of no. It's overreacting. Okay, here's the reason why I can't put them outside the top 25, and there's one reason, because I think Vanderbilt is a top 25 team, and they are in my top 25, and I respect head-to-heads. And so if it's got to be 24 for Mizzou for Vandy to be 25, so be it. What was really funny was I was at a watch party yesterday. There's a couple of journalism friends that I have in town, Alabama grad, Mizzou grad. We're all going to the Texans Indianapolis game because we're all beat reporters. And we were talking, and one of our friends who has no idea about Missouri football watches Drew Pine come in. And one dude goes, the only compliment that I can give to Drew Pine is that he throws such errant balls that it can't be intercepted. And as soon as he said that, Malachi Moore gets the first pick. And then it's off to the races. And at the very end, Nate looks at me, he's like, I can't even use that line anymore. Like, what is going on? Mizzou is a team that, again, they've been flawed all year. They have their insecurity. There are things that are just completely off with them. And I don't know what it entirely is. The play calling hasn't been as good as I thought with Kirby Moore. The offensive line hasn't been as good as I thought with Caden Green and Marcus Bryant. It did feel like that they were so pedestrian when it came to the rushing attack. And it also feels like that they bail from the rushing attack way too early in games and trust the passing game. And you can't do that when you talk about a guy like Drew Pine, because of you get turnover, and Alabama capitalizes. But like, if you tell me also this is the performance that you have with a limited Brady Cook against South Carolina, I'm taking South Carolina to win by 10 points. You tell me that this is the performance that you have with Drew Pine against Arkansas, I'm taking Arkansas to win outright. Like, that's kind of where we are. Their defense did enough in the first half, because you got to remember, Chris, it was 13-0 at one point. And they held him to 3 field goals in the first 25 minutes. Like, they didn't find their way into the end zone until the very, very, very last drive. Like, so 6 points were on the board, and that's all you had to say. And Alabama also had that nearly muff punt to where if Mizzou gets the football inside the 20, they're at least walking away with 3. You would have to imagine that they would. But like, there's something off of Missouri this year entirely. Brady Cook's health has been a factor. He's going to be dealing with that high ankle sprain moving forward. And I feel like that the Tigers are starting to enter that conversation of, I don't know what to expect any single week, but nothing will surprise me anymore. They could run the table, go 10-2. They could find a way to still be in the hunt for a college football playoff bid because of a bunch of other outlooks that change the world and shake up the sport. And a 10-win SEC team is going to get some consideration. They also could go 7-5, and it wouldn't shock me.
And credit to Bama, Cole, I will say that again, that back to them, that was the win. If you're a fan of the Crimson Tide, if you're in that locker room with all the madness the last few weeks and chatter around Kalen DeBoer and just that team and things off the field and stuff that didn't really matter, you needed to just go out there, Cole, and smash somebody's brains in. And
I think
that's what they did.
I think the other part that we have to give a lot of credit to is Jalen Milroe is not fully there right now. Like there is nobody who needs a week just to regroup, sit on his ass.
What did Dave say? He's crawling to the bye week.
He was literally crawling to the bye week. And he still had some damn good runs. So we're like, dude, just go out of bounds. Like, don't do anything that's going to hurt your team for the long haul. Had a couple of good passes, a couple of really good drives that when they started to find their rhythm, it worked in their favor. Good game plan by Justice Haynes and Jam Miller. Alabama needs a bye week. They also need to get that win that will turn the corner. And now what's going to be really interesting is to see what version of LSU and what version of Alabama takes the field at Tiger Stadium on a Saturday night in November. Because of the winner of that game, I think still is in the college football playoff hunt, without a doubt. And the winner of that game also kind of can say, this is who we really are in 2024. Because of right now, we have seen the good, we have seen the bad with Alabama, we have seen the good, we have seen the bad with LSU. We saw the good yesterday against a Mizzou squad that is, again, definitely not a top 25 team when it comes to the overall persona. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt because I'm a Mizzou bandwagoner, and also because I want to rank Vandy. But still, you look again at this squad and say, Alabama just needed this win. They need to play a clean, concise, mature game where they aren't having turnovers, where they aren't having a crap ton of penalties. Like 7's a lot, but still 7 is better than 15 on the road in Neyland Stadium in your own backyard. And it never felt like the game was in doubt. It wasn't even when it was Drew Pine coming on in. It was Brady Cook is not playing at 50%. We're not going to give them opportunities to go ahead and capitalize on short field positions. We're going to play our brand of football. We're going to walk away with the victory.
Cole, quickly in these last 2 games, again, it's NFL Sunday. I know you got places to be. We got places to be. Let's give a golf clap to Auburn here. You found a way to win a game, 24-10. You know what a great way to not allow Peyton Thorne to blow the game is, Cole? Just take it out of his hands and let Jarquez Hunter run wild. 278 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns on the game. Keandre Lambert-Smith was good again with a touchdown catch. Again, Thorne was fine, 20-26, 172, a score. He did have a pick, but that Auburn defense just suffocates Kentucky. Again, no such thing as a bad road into the SEC. And Kentucky, welcome to the bottom of my weekly power rankings because you stink. Cole, I'll let you take it from there.
I hate Auburn. I hate Auburn so much. This isn't even me trying to be funny. This isn't me trying to be like, oh, cutesy too. Oh, he's an Alabama. No, I hate Auburn because you finally saw, hey, when we run the football and we trust Jarquez Hunter to do some things.
328 rushing yards.
When we trust him to do some things, because he is a veteran and he's been here for years and he's been like the dude here for years. Yeah, we can win football games. I have screamed it from the mountaintops, Chris Phillips. Auburn is masquerading as a bad football team. And I can't cover them anymore because I finally see it. And what was the game plan? What have we been preaching for weeks now? Hey, run the damn ball with Jarquez Hunter. Good things will happen against solid units, against quality opponents, because your defense isn't that bad. Because your offensive line has its problems, but it also has its praises. Your wide receiver core can get open for a couple passes. Just don't turn the damn ball over and run it down their throat. What happened? Ran it down their throat, and they didn't turn the ball over. Congratulations. That's winning football. But now it's too late. Now it's way too late because I am in no chance in hell picking you to beat Diego Pavia. I am in no chance in hell picking you to win the Iron Bowl. I am in no chance in hell giving you bowl eligibility because of how you looked. But guess what? You didn't have to look that way against Cal. You didn't have to look that way against Oklahoma. You didn't have to look that way against Arkansas, but you did. And guess what? Now you look the way that we always thought you were, where you should have been 8-4, and you'll probably finish 5-9 or 4-8. Congratulations. Oh, and Kentucky, I'm really annoyed at you because if you hurt now Ole Miss, because you hurt Ole Miss now, because Ole Miss that had a very good game plan yesterday, a lot of penalties in that game. I'm sure we're going to talk about it in a minute, but now that loss looks worse. Now that loss looks really bad for Lane Kiffin, for Dart Nato and company, for that offense. Congratulations. You couldn't just give me a win. Like I am preaching for the last 2 weeks. Look out for Ole Miss to be in the college football playoff hunt still. What am I saying? Now they have to beat Georgia. Like they have to beat Georgia because if the loss is going to hurt them rather than help them the way that Kentucky played yesterday. And Bush Hamden, I'm sorry. I really thought that he was going to be what Bo Nix was with Will Stein for Brock Vandergrift. I'm sorry, Lexington. Blue and white, come for me in the comment section. I apologize for thinking that this could be a Bo Nix resurgence out in Lexington. Once again, congratulations. I don't know what to think of the Wildcats. Anything and everything is on the table, including Mark Stoops either hightailing it on out of there to another program or them eventually saying, we're going to go into next year looking for your replacement. But the writing is on the wall that change is inevitable within the next, I would say, 3 off seasons down at Kroger Field.
Yeah, I was going to say, Cole, it kind of feels like the Stoops era is Rant's course. It really does. Like, we're getting to that point where it's like, all right, like, what are you now? This was a huge year for his trajectory in Lexington. And I mean, for it to be as bad as it is, especially on the offensive side, to your point, it's just, and I felt like with that personnel, they could be a pretty solid team, but I was very wrong. I don't know, man. You kind of wonder. I think this is going to be an interesting offseason election potentially. To your point, though, Auburn, just run the damn football. Just take it out of Peyton Thorne's hands.
You know what's really interesting is that, again, Mark Stoops has the best job in the sport because of how much he gets paid for realistic expectations every year. I'm starting to feel like, okay, well, it's Kentucky. We need to actually, if we're going to pay that much, get better results.
Well, at some point, you got to, the trajectory matters, I think. And it's just, it feels like it's staled out. And that's coming from Kentucky folks. That's not even just coming from me or from you. It's, you talk to them, they feel like it's kind of staled out. So
there's a guy rolling in New Orleans that certainly I think is going to be up for an opportunity if he wants it.
Very good point. Cole, let's go to the game you mentioned. Ole Miss takes care of business against Oklahoma. Very interesting first half. Oklahoma was up in this game 14-10 at halftime. Give that defense a lot of credit. They shut down Jackson Arnold. Jackson Dart prevails in this game. Jackson Arnold and company shut down in the second half. They're held scoreless. Ole Miss with the come from behind 26-14 win. Dart Nato with over 300 yards passing. Held to just 69 yards rushing. But again, Ole Miss hard-fought home win. Your thoughts?
Hold on a second.
I don't know what this is, folks. I don't know where Cole's going with this. Are we going to have another helmet pulled out here or what? What are we doing? What are we doing? Come face the music, Cole. Come on.
Oh, was that a long enough pause? Because this game went forever for no apparent reason to get to the end line. What were we doing? Like, what were we doing? We had everything, and everything happened, from faking injuries for Oklahoma, faking injuries for Ole Miss, a guy on Ole Miss's sideline actually needing medical attention. There was everything to where the false starts, the penalties. It was an overall underwhelming showcase at times from Ole Miss, but still, you did see the way that they were able to have an offensive game plan that can be sustainable and get them into a college football playoff hunt if somehow a bunch of chaos concerns. Like 300 passing yards, you found other guys to step on up. Jordan Watkins had a really good game in place of Trey Harris. Caden Priestcorn finally balled on out. The big time pass to Micah Davis, a dude that I was really excited when he came and joined from Utah State because of his special teams ability. He stepped on up and got that 24-yard gain. JJ Pegues, I'm serious. Throw at least a few SEC Offensive Player of the Week nods to his way because he was great in the backfield as that fullback type dude. All that aside, the thing that really bothers me when it comes to Ole Miss, though, yes, I get it. I know that there's the fake injuries. I know that we're going to talk, but there also was just so many careless and inconsistent, and more importantly, not needed penalties in this game, and ways that they shot themselves in the foot to give Oklahoma a chance. And I want to give a lot of credit to Jackson Arnold, and this play calling underneath Kevin Johns and John Finley looked miles ahead of where it was underneath Seth Luttrell. But at the same time, how many moments was there a horse collar tackle against Chris Pupal for a 15-yard gain? How many times was there a near targeting call for a near 15-yard gain? I mean, how many times was there a grabbing of hands for a 10-yard gain? Like, there were so many careless penalties by Ole Miss's defense that it really infuriated me. And the other part that was really frustrating, Chris, Ole Miss has been really good at defending the run all year. They have been phenomenal. And honestly, Oklahoma hasn't been great at running the football this year. Oklahoma ran for over 100 yards. That's the second time all season a team has been able to get rushing yards over 100 against Ole Miss's defensive front. That's mind-boggling to me. And so you see the positives and you see the negatives. The best way that I could explain this game from an Ole Miss perspective, they got a win. They got a convincing win. They showed what their true colors were offensively, and yet they still gave us reasons to bitch, gripe, and mope.
Cole, 4 straight games for Ole Miss scoring less than 30 points. So, kind of interesting. I mean, again, you do enough to get the win, but I thought that stat was fascinating. Cole, what do you think first game post Seth Luttrell?
Oklahoma fans, I take apologies. I do. I take written letters. I take briberies. I've been nice to you all year. I take everything. I got told last week by many of you, what's the point of fighting Seth Luttrell? It's the same offense. It's the same offense. It's not going to get you back. I'm sorry. Did you watch the same game I watched? Did you watch the same game that I saw yesterday? Because Jackson Arnold was not the problem. The offensive line was terrible, but still over 200 yards on the day. They were able to run the football for over 100 yards. You saw players step up. Bauer Sharp had a damn good day. You also saw J.J. Hester have a couple of big-time passes. They were fifth-string wide receivers making plays against a defense that at one point was viewed as one of the best in the SEC. And that's due to, say it all together, play calling. Jackson Arnold is not the problem. The play calling was the problem. The play calling has been the problem. The play calling was always going to be the problem this year. And now you realize that there is a quarterback that does work extremely well. And you have to figure out, is he going to be here for the long haul or is he going to enter the transfer portal? But you ride with Jackson Arnold from here on out. He had a very solid overall day for what he was working with. I mean, 7 sacks, 15 tackles for losses. Nobody is going to find consistent success with that. But he was able to get you up early on. And then on that one fumble, that fumble by Jared Ivey, what did you want him to do? Like, kill himself on that play? Because if it was straight assault, like there was nobody that came near Jared Ivey when he got the tackle. So it's like lose. But still, this is a team that I think knows it has a quarterback. And if I am Brent Venables and I am Joe Castiglione and I am everybody in the transfer portal era, I'm running it back with Jackson Arnold. I'm just finding ways to build around him. The quarterback is not the problem, and this is a team that is not just a quarterback away from being consistently good.
Yeah, to your point, Cole, that first half, my first thought truly was, man, that they should have moved off Seth Luttrell weeks ago. The offense looked, at least to your point, Cole, it looked more how I expected this season from the standpoint of, Oklahoma's got deficiencies and issues, but at least it gave them a chance. I mean, at least it gave them some semblance of a chance, at least in that first half. So I agree with you. Stick with Jackson Arnold. I thought they bailed him too early in the season. Cole, finally, Arkansas, third time this season, they've racked up over 600 yards of offense. I picked Arkansas, thought this game had the potential to be close, and the Hogs just run away with it. They scored double digits, Cole, in every single quarter, 58-25 final. Taylor Green goes for over 300 yards, 5 touchdowns. They ran for 359. And a 300-yard day by Michael Van Buren is spoiled. Again, they get blown out on their home field. Thoughts on the Hogs again? You win Mississippi State this game.
Want to be different. That's it. Want to be different. I mean, that when you rush for 10.7 yards per play, you're going to walk away with the win. You are. When you score double digits in every quarter, you're going to walk away with the win.
Bobby Petrino was in his bag.
He was not walking away with a loss to Mississippi State, a 1-7 Mississippi State squad. I thought Taylor Green, again, is the roller coaster of emotions to where you have no idea what to expect from him, and that's a good and a bad thing. But when it's really good, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the conference. When he's really bad, he's one of the worst quarterbacks in the conference. 5 touchdowns on the day against 1 interception. If I'm not mistaken, he had over, I think he had over 400 total yards of offense, or like right below it, 79 rushing yards, 314 passing yards, like whatever it was. Still, and then like, did he rush in a touchdown too? I think so. Yeah, so 6 touchdowns on the day by Taylor Green. Defensively, they played really well. They took out Michael Van Buren. They were able to force a couple of big time turnovers to keep momentum on their side. Arkansas is Arkansas. They're 5-3. Yeah. There's a very good shot that they can still find ways to win out. They got a game next week against Ole Miss. They got Texas, Louisiana Tech, Mizzou. They're a team that if you tell me that they're in every single one of those fights, it's not going to shock me. If they lose every single one of those games by double digits minus Louisiana Tech, it's not going to shock me. But I think Arkansas, again, is at the point where they're a bad game away against Oklahoma State in a second half collapse, and a victory over Louisiana Tech from being in that 8-4, 9-3 range. And now they're still in that 7-5, 8-4 range, which I think for Sam Pittman is good enough to bring back for another year if he wants to come back for another year. What's going to be really interesting is to see, does Sam Pittman want another season in Fayetteville? But when you play the way that you did like this, it's hard for me to argue that there is not a culture solution. But again, it's one game, because there was also that game against Tennessee where you had the culture solution. And then you looked awful against LSU. And you looked awful against UAB. And you looked awful against Oklahoma State. So it's like, find that middle ground, pick which lane you want to be in, whichever one it is, done deal.
I think to your point, Cole, too, like if you just told any Arkansas fans before the season, hey, you're going to be at 5-3 going into November with a chance, I think all of them would have taken that. Like I think you're in a great position. You got La Tech. I think Ole Miss is a very winnable game. Mizzou looks very, very winnable. That would be a huge boost end of season. I mean, Texas at home, who knows? It's doable for them. I mean, to your point, though, they could also lose all those games, probably minus Louisiana Tech I mentioned. So the roller coaster that is Arkansas football, and to your point, what's the future going to hold for Pittman after the season? Bobby Petrino has been great. The offense has been night and day different, obviously, from last year. Do whatever you got to do to keep him in Fayetteville. But, a game that I felt like Arkansas should have won, I think it was scary because State's been playing pretty good ball lately, and you feel like they're going to get somebody. But Jeff Levy and company, man, just no answer. And defensively was the thing I've been concerned with them all year. It just showed through yet again. They just don't have the guys. They don't have the guys on defense.
I'm very glad I didn't do my tier rankings this week, guys. It has been a very busy week for me and for things going on in my life. So sometimes I don't get to every video. I'm very glad, because if I was going to put Arkansas in 2025, I'm also very glad that, again, I am validated by saying Mississippi State is staying in 2025, looking ahead.
Cole, that's going to do it. Let's go ahead and put a pin in it. Week 9 was electric. We've got Week 10 upcoming, another great slate. We'll be here next Sunday breaking it all down, recapping, and getting after it. Again, guys, make sure you like, subscribe, turn on notifications. Check us out via podcast wherever you get those. Check us out across all social media platforms, as well as our website, secunfilter.com. Check me out, Chris Phillips at CPhilly19, Cole Thompson at Mr. Cole Thompson, and our guy, Dave Shoemate, who couldn't be here today, at Mach 10 Sports. Cole, it's always a pleasure, my man. Appreciate you taking the time. Again, appreciate all those that tuned in, engaged, gave us your time here on this Sunday morning. We love every single one of you. We couldn't do this without you. Thank you again from the bottom of my heart, from the bottom of Cole's heart, from the bottom of Dave's heart and the rest of us here at SEC Unfiltered, cannot say thank you enough for allowing us the opportunity to do this day after day, week after week. What a season it's been. Cole, the final Sunday fun day and the final weekend of college football in the month of October. And now we'll flip the calendar to November.
So Optimize October is over. Now it's time for No Nonsense November. And Mo Shave November. Next Sunday, guys, you're going to see something very special on the face. It's going to be, you're going to hate it. You're going to be coming back just to watch to see how much it grows or how little it does.
Let Movember.
Movember is upon us, ladies and gentlemen.
It's upon us. Guys, again, appreciate you all tuning in. Thank you all so much. Have a great rest of your Sunday. For Cole Thompson, I'm Chris Phillips. We will talk to you all on the other side. Good stuff.